when it comes to the draft phase.
No, and Skarner taking his place on the blue side. You know, there's something a little bit different there that we maybe not as expected to have seen. The Renekton ban on blue side, though, does give you a little hint. Okay, we're looking to take the Ambessa early doors and breathe with the Ambessa straight away locked in. Going to be a nice, stable top laner for them. Looking at Vi now to be picked up maybe for Weibo. Just, we are already diving. Let's commit to the bit.
Yeah, and I don't think that Xiaohu played any Ambessa in the first split, and even then, it's probably not the best matchup into the Azir. I know that some of our mid laners in the LPL did flex that as a possibility. Oh, don't tempt me, Tian. See, because I still don't know if we're on the live patch. If we're on the live patch, then we got to talk about Nefiri, because that is a real thing. I mean, I don't even know if it's a secret sauce anymore, especially if you're on social media. But Tian, just teasing us, you know, gonna go with the old reliable vibe, point and click, cease and desist. That is a surefire way to start a team fight.
Yeah, and I mean, you're taking this into Ezreal and into Azir, so you are just committing to the dive and sort of saying, be damned with whatever EDG decide to put out in their own right, because EDG already have got pretty decent disengage tools with that Azir wall, with Arcane Shift as well. Getting out of that Vi ulti can be possible, right? It's something that is in the Ezreal's wheelhouse and something that Arn, we should be looking to see whether or not he can capitalize on that. As for the rest of what EDG might look to put down, we still need some semblance of engage, some semblance of frontline, and that counter pick into the top side that comes through is going to be the Aatrox. So we'll have to see whether or not ZDZ's got some secret spicy pick, or rather technology on this Aatrox to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Ambessa, because he knew what he was getting himself into when he took this pick.
Yeah, I mean, EDG so far with their composition is very flexible in just kiting backwards, but like you said, there's no strong form of engage. They have plenty of disengage with just the way that their champions work so far, but if you are not skyrocketing ahead as EDG, then having no engage means that you have no real ways of starting a fight whenever you want to get away back into the game. You always have to be the first one at objectives, and that's not a great place to be if you're behind in goal. Meanwhile, as you pointed out in Weibo Gaming, the fact that they have so much dive assembled, it almost feels like, do you really need like additional engage from the bot side, or can you just go for like, I don't know, an 80 carry plus an enchanter?
This is screaming Jin Bard right now for Weibo. Now, whether or not they go for it, completely different, and that's just a different way of which they could look to facilitate that dive. But you're quite right? They don't need that big engage, but what they are still kind of lacking is something to be a tank, and now they're not going to get that. Right, that's going to be Hong to just sort of throw his life away if they go for something that is going to be that little bit of frontline. But they've got Bruiser, and a mage. Bot lane, they're going to end up with either low econ tank plus an AD carry, so nobody who can sit and take damage for a while. Obviously, you might end up with a Sterax on the Ambessa at some point, a Death Stance too as well. So there's a couple of options that Weibo have to use frontline, and I'm looking at what Light takes here, because the only good dive AD carry, like the quintessential dive AD carry, has been taken off the board in that Kai'Sa. And then you're just thinking, well, what else can I pick that facilitates this dive? I see I'm going up against an Ezreal, so it can be an okay laning phase. But if you go something that's really weak in the early game, what you can end up doing is getting Ezreal Kai'Sa, or Ezreal Karmad, excuse me, and you'd end up getting poked out quite heavily. So I like that Weibo are sort of suggesting we need some semblance of a 2v2, and they've opted into this Varus. Very standard, very traditional, and it gives them that power in the early game to try to go toe-to-toe.
Yeah, and especially considering EDG went with the Wukong in their jungle role for Xiaohao, this means that they have either decent engage with the Cyclone if you ever find a good flank, or just more powerful disengage, because they cannot walk through double instances of Cyclone. So seeing that Wukong, that's why Light goes for the long range marksman in the Varus, can just contribute with pokes and the arrows, and of course non-committal engage in Hung's Leona. Now EDG round out their composition with Alistar. So now you have engage, you have even more disengage. So EDG is very flexible in which direction they want to go, whereas Weibo Gaming, they kind of just want to either siege or go forward. There is no real going backward with this composition.
No, exactly. If they get engaged on, they have to take a fight, and that's something that they might start to struggle with. Now, of course, we have to remember, Ambessa can dash out of 17 different skill shots if she needs to. The Aurora as well can put the ulti down, can hop from one side to the other, make herself safe there as well. The Varus, though, and Light in particular, probably going to struggle if he does get engaged on. And, you know, Varus into Wukong specifically, if you're going for that on-hit style, can be pretty punishing as the Varus, because the Wukong on that 1-2 item spike just kills you, just beats you in the 1v1 if you don't have that support of your team there. I like that we've seen EDG pick up that little bit extra engage as well, something that they were kind of lacking and would have been relying a little bit too heavily on Xiaohao for. They've now got Wink as well, back up the team. We can go for that engage on the Alistair as well.
Yeah, and I have to say, Rude, if it wasn't for the names on the champions and we were just looking at it purely from draft versus draft, I really like EDG's composition a little bit more because neither team has true tanks, so the Ezreal and the Azir actually just melts through any of the melee bruisers that cannot get on top of you. You have the flexibility of all these ways to disengage and just really stranglehold all these melee bruisers trying to get in range of you. And then on top of that, you have pretty much damage in every single roll. So if one of your carries falls, you have the reliability of everyone being able to make up for the slack.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's something that, you know, we can kind of attribute to both sides as well. It is to engage supports and then 4 carries essentially that they've taken, the archetypes of which, you know, we can argue for and break down a little bit later on. But you know, we've got now the beginning of Split 2 now. This is the first match, right? Second split underway. 10 teams gonna go into the Nirvana group, or the Ascend group. 6 teams gonna go into Nirvana, and like, in a world where third place matters, every single win becomes important. Every single game becomes important, because if you can snipe away one win that you're not maybe expected to find, that can set you apart.
Yeah. And I think that's specifically the case for EDG if we're just looking at name value alone, right? Weibo Gaming and BLG, the expected favorites for Group A here. EDG, WE, not so much, but EDG bringing in on, reuniting this bot lane duo that was together on IG for a couple years and was one of the brighter spots on that roster. Hopefully the synergy brings them up another level in where EDG can land in this group today and for the rest of the split. Now, we get a chance to see all the runes and the keystones on board, and I'm going to be really curious on if we're going to get any action early on from either of the junglers. Wukong not really known for trying to make heavy ganks unless you have strong CC set up. Vi can kind of set up those ganks a little bit better on her own.
Yeah, so Tian has a little bit more agency through the early game, right? That's what we're trying to get at, that the Vi can make that play into the mid lane, into the bot lane, wherever. We tend to see the Vi ending up. We know that we're clearing away from top side, so Breathe and ZVZ going to have a little bit of time now to throw hands with one another. And just looking at the minimap as well, you can see there is information that has been given over. EDG are spotted, Xiaohao is spotted, and Weibo, they'll be able to intuit where this Wukong's going to go. Whether or not that was reciprocated, we'll have to wait and see. Because if Weibo are operating with more information than EDG, that's already an advantage for Weibo.
Yeah, and Rude, I imagine that Weibo will definitely want to try to prioritize the grubs this game, since Ambessa and Aurora seem to have a better time splitting on side lanes, and considering that it plays into Weibo Gaming's whole strong gaming philosophy of how they're one of our best side lane playing teams in the entire league, and it kind of just plays to whole what Xiaohu does. But do you think EDG will even try to contest them at that first round?
I think the issue is that when we're looking at contests, it so frequently comes from bot lanes. They hit level 3.
Nice opportunity for On and Wink to try and exact some damage, but just as I say that, it's a bit of a poke from Light's arrow that takes a chunk out of Wink's health bar. Now, Tian is technically here first, but Xiaohao has just finished his full clear as well. So Tian knows that the window to make a jump onto Wink and On has evaporated, and it's just gonna get some vision. Confirms that Xiaohao is indeed on the bottom side of the map taking that crab, so he will just cross and take the other crab on the other side.
This does give a small advantage over to Xiaohao, as he's going to be able to clear his crab first. So what he does with this time, sometimes you can recall, be out on the map a little bit earlier, but he's just going to hop in, get a quick ward down. That's going to be it. So he's going to be out on the map just that little bit faster versus Tian. And again, it's about 10 seconds, maybe 12 of tempo in favor of Xiaohao. And then you have that question, what does Tian do? Does he base or does he cheat it and not have that combat power if he wasn't to take the recall? But immediately pathing back out toward their top sides, and now another engaged bot side.
Oh, I don't think Hong wanted to take that Zenith Blade, was maybe trying to stop a base, but gets completely punished. On and Wink set up the trap, and they spring it. First blood for Wink.
And it's this reunited bot lane that come out swinging, Raafaa. You said going up against Light and Hong is going to be a tricky 2v2 to battle up against, but already, Ezreal Alistar, again, a lane not known for its 2v2 prowess necessarily, coming out on top. On and Wink, they're back, baby.
Yeah, when you think of kill lanes, this is definitely not the setup that that comes to mind, but On and Wink make it happen, and as you called it, maybe the synergy comes back into the fray, and they're saying to themselves, you know what, why don't we try a little trap card? And unfortunately for Hong, he did not figure it out.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are no better ways to face check that bush, but also, why do you need to face check that bush? You know, that's the question we need to be asking is it really too detrimental if they're taking the recall there? And what happens if they are? Well, actually, I just die. So they get punished. First blood over to EDG, and already we can start that Drake up now. That established bot lane priority, just because we've got an extra little bit of gold in our back pocket. Certainly beginning to feel good again. When you get an Ezreal and a Varus in these games, and they're both going for the poke build, as we can see.
Yeah.
Tier stacking, something that I always really value on an Ezreal, because he's going to get to mirror mana faster. Just the way that Ezreal can spam spells and use his skills, it's faster than a Varus can. So he's going to get that mana immune upgraded much, much sooner. And if he gets a little bit of extra injection of gold along the way, he's going to have more items sooner as well.
Now, if I'm Weibo Gaming, Rude, especially if I'm Hung, my cope is, I say, hey Tian, no Ezreal flash. Come bot lane right now.
Yeah. AD no flash. Jungler. Where is my gank? Where's my gank?
Where's my jungle? Where's my jungle level 6?
Already, we're now beginning to see these two junglers start to do those trades. Tian moves his way up to the top side, and the firmly established bot lane prio is offset by what has been, honestly, a pretty decent laning phase for Breed. 10 CS up versus the Aatrox. Again, this was ZDT's counter pick into the Ambessa. It's not going too well for him as of yet. It is giving Tian a little bit of free time to be able to take these grubs without any contest. You can see on the minimap as well, Xiaohu hovering toward that top side of mid lane, cutting off any approach from Angel if they were to try to stop this.
Yep. As you see, cross-trade of neutral map objectives. Xiaohao playing to the favor of On and Wink being able to gate that bot lane prio. Tian just clearing out some camps on the top side. I don't think Xiaohao is going to be able to find a red buff of his own on the bottom side since it has not spawned yet, so opportunistic for Tian to snipe this away. But it's not the end of the world. It's just one of those small things that jungle mains like myself get a little irked about, you know? You just gotta... Sometimes you gotta concede the point that, hey man, you might not be able to get every camp of yours, especially the buffs, but the fact that both junglers are level 6 now adds a little bit of playmaking, and I still want to highlight the fact that On's flash is still down for another couple minutes. That is a play opportunity waiting to be made happen.
Yes, as soon as we do end up seeing Tian move his way back down to that bot side, possibility for the Ezreal to be under some sort of fire, but I do want to look a little bit larger scale, Raafaa, here at how the game looks a little bit later on, and just the DPS threats for both of these sides, because we've already highlighted the fact that this is 4 carries across the side of both of these teams, really. There's a lot of carry potential on both sides. In terms of raw scaling, I'm always going to favor the range that an Ezreal and an Azir can provide you. Really favoring what Angel will be able to do this game if he's left unchecked. But that's up against and in the face of Breathe and Tian, right? If there's a cease and desist that comes through, that's an unmissable public execution. That is then a combo onto an Azir who is going to struggle to not just disengage himself, but also disengage versus all of the Ambessa damage and dashes as well.
Yeah, and I think that is going to be the key for Weibo, making sure that they are not only in position to make that happen. This could be big. Oh, Wink is looping right around. Gets eyes on Xiaohu. The Emperor's Divide pushes him in momentarily, and On the reunited bot lane making magic happen on the Rift.
And that's all Wink there. Really solid play and just positioning from him. Walking the long way around. There's no chance Xiaohu is expecting an Alistar to come from behind him near his tier 2 turret to knock him into the team. And the second that first bit of CC comes through, the rest of EDG just swarm onto the poor Aurora. Take down Xiaohu, delay that Aurora damage for a little bit longer, and put, again, a little bit more gold back into this reunited EDG bot lane.
And I'm not going to lie, Rude, I think EDG are definitely more awake than Weibo Gaming are at the moment. They are playing super proactively. They're getting early aggressive vision down in anticipation of the rotations from Tian. And a Xiaohu knows that there's something happening, but he doesn't know where it's happening from. And that's where the punish comes in.
Yeah, and it's just that lack of vision, right? When you've forfeited so much time to take away topside camps, this is what you give up. This is what you're sacrificing, and ultimately it ends up costing Xiaohu his life there. Didn't have teleport, so couldn't make it back in to that lane. But it is still worth saying he is up on gold versus Angel, up on CS still. So that first death hasn't proven to be too impactful. If anything, has sort of closed that gap up for Angel and made it so that mid lane is a little more tenable.
Weibo Gaming not able to stop the recall from On. You could see that Hong was looking for it. And the gold lead is still negligible because both teams are even across the board. There's very minor goal differences. So even though EDG have gotten 2 very opportunistic kills, they're not snowballed ahead. Now, they are going to look for a 3v1 dive. Tian is going to ramp up the turret damage. I think Tian's going to go down, but as long as they pull out this play, and Tian flashes just at the last frame possible. No one dies on Weibo Gaming. Cleanly executed by Weibo
Wink and
Gaming.
Xiaohao are looking, but they're not going to be able to find anything here. The Ambessa are far too healthy. No Trinity Force, no Sundera yet for the Wukong, and yeah, there's not enough damage even if there was an engagement there, but we're moving our way up to this top side. We've just lost our top planer, but look at who is here, Arn and Wink. Look at the timing as well. Second spawn of Grubs. You mentioned that the Ambessa, the Aurora, they would like to have these locked and loaded to have 6 Grubs, but it's EDG taking the initiative and making sure that they're in there just in time enough to try to take those Grubs. Reminder that there's not a real chance of any fight going to happen either, especially since we just used cease and desist on a dive in the top side.
Yeah, I wonder if Weibo Gaming will try to position for this second dragon of the game then, since they have a minute to get this bot lane pushed in. But as I say that, Hong and Light are taking their bases now. Maybe there's some item completions coming in that'll make them a little bit stronger in anticipation for an objective fight around this bottom side of the map. We'll see though, as EDG still, once again, as we mentioned before, the gold lead still quite negligible, although the play on the top side did give Weibo a little bit of a boost, but still anybody's game in this first match.
I will say, really happy with the little bits of macro that we've just seen from EDG here. Just the way that they're juggling their carries around to catch the relevant waves was actually really well done. Arn and Wink moved up to the top side, so the majority of the top wave that would have been lost on that dive was caught. Off the back of that, we see ZDZ go down to the bot side to make sure that he catches the wave that's going in there, and then they have to transition Arn back down to the bot lane. So Angel takes a reset, walks out bot lane, catches the wave that's down there. ZDZ's already recalled and is making his way back out to top lane. Arn catches one mid wave, and then they swap back, and it's this seamless transition that can go so horribly wrong. But it means that they're catching as many of the waves as possible, whilst also making their moves to have secured the now objective feat, because they've got 3 of those neutral objectives, and not losing out on that much in the consequence.
Yeah, and that's why I said, or I called out that I think EDG are playing far more awake than Weibo Gaming, and they might just need a little bit more time to, you know, not be sleepy, since, as you called out, the rotation from EDG, far more proactive and far more early in advance, just giving them as much resources as possible. They are optimizing pretty much everywhere that their carries are being assigned to lane-wise. Now, we still haven't seen a massive snowball play come out of the lane assignments from EDG so far. It's been a pretty good couple opportunistic picks as we talked about before, but we're starting to approach that mid-game slot where the first item spikes are coming online for a lot of people. Weibo Gaming haven't really, you know, sent this game out of control for EDG, so it's not a position where EDG, I would imagine, have to feel like they are forced to fight. They can just kind of stall the game out more, as Breathe might be in trouble, flashed away, but that public execution is going to snag Xiaohao, and he's going to get punished on the overextension.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's not how that champion works anyway. It's not Yone ulti. He doesn't travel to the end, and whether or not Tian and Han can find some recompense under this turret, we'll have to wait and see.
Tian does have cease and desist. The question is, who does he want to target with the ulti? They blow up Xiaohao first, and now they have to drop the turret aggro, but ZDZ is going to claim one. Angel flash, divide, pushes Xiaohao and Tian right back into the tower. Here comes the Darken Blade. Warmer cast the flash, lands the sweet spot, Winks, punts Xiaohu away so he cannot finish off ZDZ, saving the top laner, and Wink will claim himself the final kill.
And a lovely collapse from EDG, once again just being faster and more alert to the play. It's going absolutely wonderfully for them in this early game, and for a team that we've said as well might be quite happy to just sit back, to just let what is happening happen and just catch the farm to scale and be fine later on. Getting earlier kills and earlier objectives feels absolutely incredible.
EDG fans, if you got homies, if you got family, wake them up right now, because EDG is probably playing their best LPL so far this season, and at least this time, it's not actually involved on the side, but just the rest of EDG just seem reinvigorated for the second split.
Yeah, and once again, I want you to take a look at minimap as well a little bit of this, because there's a bot wave that gets crashed and not caught. Whilst all of this dive is going on, it's experience being lost around the map, so it's a big commitment from Weibo to try to make something happen on this top side, and it's an ultimate failure, really. They don't get what they wanted. They lose out on a lot on the map, and it's going to cost them not just the kills that come through here, but all of that experience as well. That's the appropriate response, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Weibo Gaming coaching staff is in shambles at the moment, just completely aghast at what is happening to their squad right now. I don't think it's any secret that everyone was expecting Weibo Gaming to be the favorites going into this first game against EDG. And yes, we knew that there was a roster swap coming in with the reunion of On and Wink, but I mean, this isn't just the power of On and Wink reunion, unless it's, you know, suddenly motivating everyone else on EDG to play at their absolute top performance right now, because everyone is on fire right now.
No, absolutely. And I mean, for the most part, we are 16 minutes into this game. We have to see what this EDG composition looks like as we move later on. I think that the composition of champions they've got looks really good as they move later. But so frequently with the top teams, it's their ability to claw their way back from these devastating positions and prove themselves a little bit later on. Whilst those kills are 2 to 6, the gold, again, at this stage in the game, relatively negligible, and we look at where the majority of that gold lead is, well, it's actually in Wink's pocket, which is the exact worst place for it to be. But Weibo, starting up this Rift Herald now, TP's available for our top laners if there is to be a fight.
Wink tries to lead the engage first, but just takes a little bit of damage, gains some space for the rest of EDG. Weibo slowly trying to fight their way back in. It's all about the poke. True Shot Barrage gets a little bit of HP damage done. A teleport comes in from Breathe as he tries to join the fight. Might try to pressure for the top tier 1 turret instead, since EDG have dropped the Herald and it's reset. So there's a little bit of time for Weibo Gaming to play this slow, but the third dragon is about to spawn here, Roodood, and that's where EDG want to go.
Yeah, and again, it's a small thing, but now that ZDZ has made his way up to this top side and he's a little bit later, Xiaohao looking.
He's waiting for Tian to face check. Doesn't spring it, doesn't bite, just walks away and gets out over the wall. Breathe, tries to rejoin the team.
Exactly, it's that top prio that we got to see that is actually going to be quite beneficial for Weibo. The startup comes through for them, and yes, EDG's moving from top side, but he's not going to be here. I wouldn't like to think in time, but this is a call from EDG. They want to take this fight here. Xiaohao takes over. We're looking for a big skirmish. 5v5 should be coming through.
Maybe if Wink can find something, or Xiaohao can go for the steal. Doesn't get it. Tian is clutch on the smite, and now the cease and desist locks down the monkey. Wink tries to give his life to buy some time. Angel pushes Tian back. Can they fight on proper front lines now as ZDZ sails through the air looking for that Darken Blade, but doesn't find much. Tian re-engages with the Vault Breaker. They fight on, and Weibo Gaming runs this fight, reminding EDG who is at the top as Angel's forced to flee, and Weibo Gaming find themselves a huge gold lead.
And EDG just don't quite have the right engage. It's Weibo that bend, but they do not break. They absorb what EDG are looking to put down, and then at just the right time, Tian springs from the brush, catches on off guard, takes down the AD carry, and the Ezreal who'd been funneled that little bit extra gold, that little bit of extra time, not quite able to make the difference in this team fight. Weibo mentioned that it was their ability to take these team fights and take these disadvantageous positions and just turn them around. That's exactly what happens here. Control of the top side of the river is completely in favor of Weibo. So they're just able to operate so much better. They can use the brushes to dip in and out of vision. And when it looks scary that ZDZ is fully in that backline, they just corral around them in the pit. Tian again, just walking up into that brush, springing the trap, completely turns the tide of this fight.
And I was going to say before the fight broke out that do EDG actually need to fight for this dragon? Sure, you can look for a steal, but the composition gets better and better as the game goes on. Why not play into that win con and try and overplay your hand? But, you know, EDG, they had the confidence. They were feeling on fire from how the first 18 minutes of the game had gone. I respect them for trying it. And unfortunately for them, they're just not able to get the execution right. And now for the first time, Weibo Gaming, I say it's a huge gold lead. It doesn't look like much because it's only 1,000. But when my Aurora has 1,000 gold lead and the first, second item breakpoint over the Azir, things get scary for future fights.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember is that this doesn't just make the game over for EDG, and Weibo still have a lot of work to do. They still need to start putting a little bit more aggression into this to try and extend that advantage, but it does give them the opportunity to do that, and now just that slight favourable team fight capability that they are looking at. Light here, I like the Edge of Night coming down. The only real damage that he's getting taken from range are those True Shot barrages. So if he gets, that tagged by the Ezreal ulti, then it's going to be fine. What I will say is that it is absolutely awful versus Alistar. So if Wink is able to get on top of him, the Edge of Night will do literally zero. But now, oh my word, ZDZ.
Well, he heals a chunk of HP thanks to World Ender plus his passive. Uh-oh, Breathe doesn't land the public execution, but Xiaohu is here for the cleanup. Should get one more. Oh, Breathe tried to flash into it, but Xiaohao pops the Cyclone just at the right frame. Prevents Breathe from getting the last bit of damage he needed for the kill, and he gets to limp away alive, but cannot save the tier 1 as Angel, at the very least, trades one on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the first turret that goes the way of Angel down in that bot lane, so a little bit of extra cash injection once again for the Azir, but this is going to be Weibo using that topside prio to find themselves the Atakan as well. It's going to be most notable for the Weibo side. There is no response at all from EDG. They've not really found anything on the cross map, and there's Roses, nice little bit of adaptive force, nice little bit of experience as well, and Weibo again now really starting to hammer home an advantage.
Yeah, I think the only saving grace that Angel gets out of pushing that side lane is just all the experience he's getting. Now, take a look back at this replay, and you see how close this gets.
Yeah, and I like that there's a bit of aggression coming out, but it's just not quite close enough. Tian has gone too deep, and Breathe flashes just on top of Xiaohao, who has that Cyclone ready. Now, with Locket there as well from Wink, I'm not sure that the kill would have come through had they have not been knocked up. But even still, does look a little bit goofy, looks a little bit funny, and that actually, well, our Ambessa no longer has the flash.
Unfortunate for Breathe, but Weibo Gaming, we'll see if that Ambessa flash is pivotal to what could be a fight around the 4th dragon of the game. Could be the 3rd or 2nd for EDG and Weibo Gaming, respectively. Now, we're going to have to pay attention to how well Breathe can set up this top lane before he gets a chance to TP and be in position, because that should give Weibo Gaming the advantage of being able to be the first ones into the river.
It has proven to be very important, right? We've already highlighted the power that the river control has given just Tian in that last Drake fight as well. So making sure that the EDG can stop that from happening again going to be pivotally important. You can already see that the footwork has been done. Pink wards abound down on this bot side, and maybe looking to sacrifice a little bit of that mid wave, but they are looking to make sure that their control over that river is entirely EDG focused.
Breathe is hiding in the shadows over this Raptor wall, but he's going to get spotted by ZDZ. Weibo Gaming pop the Rift Herald. No one is going to take it for a ride, just sending it into the tier 1 for a crash. This gives Weibo Gaming first move into the river, and now they have complete control. EDG would have to walk into darkness. Big chunk from Xiaohu onto Xiaohao's Wukong.
That's 2 piercing arrows that have just landed onto Arn as well. So Light single-handedly has, or maybe not single-handedly, but with the power between Xiaohu and Light, they've just secured themselves this dragon before it has even started, before the fight ever has a chance to break out, and before any form of engage even has an opportunity to happen. EDG lose enough HP that they feel like they can't find that fight anymore, and I think quite rightly so. Pull away, but even still, that's a 2nd now Infernal Dragon. Weibo Gaming firmly on their way to getting to that next Drake. And what we need from EDG at this point is to stop pulling that trigger. We need Wink to find those unique angles like what we saw earlier onto Xiaohu. Get into a position where we can find a fight, and so that our carries aren't getting obliterated before they enter.
maybe a pick on to Breathe. Teleport is coming in from Angel to join with ZDZ for the 2v1. Wink and Xiaohao also here for the play. Hong and Tian are going to try to see if they can safely escort Breathe, but that is not going to happen because everybody, and I mean literally everybody, even a true shot barrage from on all the way in mid lane, gets sent to take out Breathe.
And now we're going to see a response play. Tian in the mid lane might just look to die between Chain of Corruption and Cease and Desist. This is going to really struggle. There's the wave, but it's still going to fall. 1v2, not a lot that you can do.
I like the patience on Tian, just not completely sending it. Ooh, Chain of Corruptions goes a little wide. Onside steps in, no need to burn the flash or the cleanse on that one. So that's a pick tool gone from the side of Weibo Gaming, but EDG still starting to suffer the consequences of that ambitious third dragon fight. The gold lead still climbing against them, and Weibo Gaming are slowly starting to strangle EDG out of control in this game.
Baron has now spawned. I don't know that anybody's going to go immediately there. I think the Baron on both sides is maybe favouring EDG in their ability to take it down. The DPS of Nazir certainly quite powerful, and we are now hitting that 2-item breakpoint for everybody really in the game. In certain instances, looking at those third items looking to be picked up, Light in particular, probably the most accelerated member of this game, maybe just behind Xiaohu in that fact, but even still, you can see just on the left-hand side of your screens here that the 100% KP of the mid-jungle duo for Weibo, this is something that maybe went a little bit under the radar through this game, but has certainly been a staple of the Weibo Gaming way, is making sure that Xiaohu is there wherever things are happening, getting him on the board and getting him 4 kills in this game specifically.
And considering how the first 18 minutes of the game played, EDG were definitely impressing us with how proactive, how much more awake they were. But unfortunately for them, Weibo Gaming have finally woken up at this point, and now they're the ones trying to make proactive plays, forcing the hands of EDG as EDZ has to use the flash just to escape the pick from Breathe and Tian. Xiaohao now trying to battle for control of his Gromp, but he's going to have to cede control of that as the teleport is coming in. Xiaohu wants to join the fray in case any fighting breaks out. Weibo Gaming just once again suffocating resources from EDG, denying them continuously over these minutes. So even if the kill score isn't increasing, Rude, the gold lead definitely is.
Yeah, so the TP comes down and they don't find anything in by way of kills, but they are going to look to try and find in tier 2. Wink!
Woo! Pulverized Flash tries to look for the engage. Xiaohu forced to use all of his summoner spells and tries to run away using the ultimate as well. It's a decent look from EDG, and I like it, Rude. Even if it doesn't, unfortunately, net EDG much, that summoner spell's gone. Maybe the next play you can actually land the kill.
That's what I was looking for. Looking for that engage. Try to find an angle to get a fight started. Now, Xiaohu, an unfortunately incredibly slippery character, had the flash, has the in-between worlds as well, so you can hop into in stealth, make it so that you can go from one side of your ulti to the other, and overall not quite able to find the full pick, but still a great heads-up play, and it defends the tier 2 down on that bot side as well. It was a 4v4 down in the bot lane. We saw Light and Angel just throwing a couple of hands back against one another for a little bit of time, but now we're seeing EDG just with a little bit faster play on the map, maybe looking to sacrifice another dragon down on our bot side for taking this tier 1 rather, in the top lane.
Angel's got to be careful. Thankfully, he's got Wink and Xiaohao in his back pocket in case anything really got frisky, but Breathe, just a couple spells and goodbye. A solid half of Angel's health bar there. I mean, this is going to be the struggle when you've got an Mbessa trying to tear you apart in the backline, and if Vi ever links up at this point in the game, I think that's a guaranteed kill. I don't know if Angel will be able to survive long enough on the burst.
So he does have stasis, and that's the real thing that you're looking to try and leverage, is that you can maybe stop one of the blow up one of the cooldowns and just eat it with Zhonya's, but even still, that is definitely tricky to look at. Gold spent as well, it looks like, or combat power is on just below the 2 teams player portraits. About 3k in favour of Weibo at the minute. So that gold lead up at the top, reading about 4 in terms of actual gold spent in inventories right now, about 3,000 in favour of Weibo. So they move up toward this top side. EDG looking to clear out some vision. That dragon in the bot lane is going to be forfeit. What are EDG getting on this top side though, Raafaa? It looks like the answer is, unfortunately, a little bit of vision, but not a lot else.
Yeah, because Weibo Gaming were able to split their assignments here, they couldn't really just force the Baron without Weibo Gaming being able to challenge, get some poke down. Now Tian, he stepped a
whoa,
little too far
whoa,
forward.
whoa.
He's gonna send it with the cease and desist. Public
turn
execution onto the back line as well. They blow up on! Xiaohao also falls! Yes, Tian goes down, but his sacrifice was worth for the play, because Weibo Gaming now got to run down the remaining members of EDG. ZDZ does manage to get over the wall. He and Angel are the survivors, but it's still 4 in favor of Weibo. No junglers for either side, and I think Weibo are gonna chance for the Baron.
And it's on once again, just a little bit too far forward, getting caught out. That cease and desist lands, and the rest of Weibo Gaming collapse. It is a death that is not in vain for Tian, and now Weibo will happily be able to take down this Baron. A reminder that they've got no smite on either side, so there is a possibility that an Azir poke can steal this. Weibo needs to be careful that that's not the case, but with Angel not really stepping up, walking over too much vision to be able to do so, it's Weibo Gaming that secure themselves the Baron, putting right the wrongs of their first 15 minutes.
Yep. When we take a look back at this play once again, you can see that Tian is on the hunt for a pick here. And even though he face checks, he's got a Sterix Gauge. He's 3 items. He's so ahead in levels that the base stats allow him enough time to get his cooldowns off before he goes in.
Yeah, and on there, again, the reason you pick the Ezreal is that you have that Arcane Shift to buy the space between you and the Vi and potentially offset the Ambessa ulti. But just a little too close there. On didn't have the timing down, didn't get his E off so that he was safe, and he gets CC chained for the exact duration of time he was in combat. Gets absolutely 100 to 0'd within that CC, and there's nothing that he can do once that ulti hits and he's not out of range of that public execution. It is a misplay, it is unfortunate, but it's cost him now for a second time.
We're still 3 minutes away from what could be Weibo's soul spawning on the Rift, so EDG have some time to stall and farm up before what could be the last fight of the game, or at least the fight that pretty much seals the deal on what is already a Weibo Gaming favored match to close out. But for Weibo, there's still a couple things they need to make sure they get done right. They need to break into the base, and those inhibitor towers have not even been breached quite yet, as Light tries to fish for a chain of corruptions, doesn't find anything. It's just the siege game with the Baron and Power Cannon minions.
Yeah, with the Aurora and the Varus as well. Aurora poking from fog,
diving
mid lane.
And on falls once again. Both summoner spells burn, and it just does not matter, Root.
I mean, Tian is level 18 on this Vi, is maybe the most accelerated in terms of experience of anybody. 0, 2, and 9, and just dumpstering on. The carry that EDG needed, that they bought into this split, is just getting pummeled in his return to the LPL.
Damn. And it was just a well-angled wall breaker over the wall. Dude, the fact that Tian is taking side lane farm in combination with taking all of the camps from Xiaohao is giving him this level read. Now, Angel might be able to get a punish unless the wall breaker plus the blast shield. Oh, it could be enough. Xiaohao finally gets in range. There's the smite. There's the crushing blow. Yeah. And at least EDG put an end to Tian's terror, but still, this is pretty doomed from the side of EDG. 8,000 gold deficit. They are hoping for a series, not just one miracle route. It's got to be a series of miracle plays.
Oh yeah, and Angel, burns his flash there to try and catch both people in the Emperor's Divide. Succeeds, but doesn't have a soldier ready to pop up and start doing the DPS after the fact. And Tian, again, playing with that vision, hops into the brush, springs back out of it with the Vault Breaker, or very nearly takes the Azir all the way from 100 right the way down to 0. A stasis keeps Angel alive. It's well timed, it's well played, and it makes sure that the Azir doesn't lose out on that time farming on the map.
50 seconds until the 4th Infernal Dragon spawns on the map. EDG, for their sake, are the first ones in the river, and they get a chance to at least litter some wards down, but they're still not feeling confident to actually push into the further recesses of Weibo Gaming's red quadrant side jungle. It's just got to be at the river entrances. That's all they can afford to get.
It's going to be dangerous now for EDG to really do any sort of phase checking, right? Whoever goes in, if it's Wink, he's going to burn ulti, which means that you have to find an engage there, or your next team fight is going to be really, really tricky. We know that this soul is spawning in 15 seconds. Weibo Gaming, they know this as well. They can barrel it down mid lane. They're not compelled to take this fight around the dragon. Obviously, getting the soul is a big win for them, but they don't need to stop this. They can, if they would like, look for a mid lane play. With your gold so in favour of Weibo. Nearly 10,000 gold in their favour. EDG, a final Hail Mary.
Xiaohu is still lurking around for a flank. His eyes are on, and Angel gets a decent amount of burst down, but he gets blown up by On and Angel.
They got
Breeze
Soul,
into
though.
the back line. Weibo Gaming secures Soul, but they've got to be careful how the rest of the fight plays out. They don't want to give over too many kills. Weibo still trying to deal with On, who is running amok, but Breathe on the Abyssa just slices through every last member of EDG. It doesn't matter that Xiaohu falls because their other soul laner is picking up the slack. The rest of Weibo Gaming pick up the ace, and the game is theirs.
It's Light that flashes in for the triple kill, but it's Breathe who sets it all up. Just dancing around EDG in their faces in that final team fight. The Infernal Soul came in clutch, and Weibo will take the first win of the LPL split too.
It was a nice early look from EDG, but Weibo Gaming are still the ones dominating the Rift. GG, well played.
And a plus 50 for Breathe as well, as he thoroughly deserves it. That final team fight, absolutely devastating from the Ambessa. You got to see just how obnoxious this champion can be. Between Death Stance, between all of her shields, the Eclipse as well, the survivability that this champion has, and poor Angel just trying his best to wail through it as On goes on a wild goose chase to take down a tank. Ends up costing the team, again, a little bit too much. And for the most part, I really value what EDG did in the early stages of this game, but you have to value even more how Weibo were able to bounce back.
And it really just came down to that third dragon fight, right? I mean, EDG, we question whether they needed to take that fight in the first place, but they were feeling hot. You know, the confidence from the way the early game was played out, why not, you know? And I still want to say I respect the... I don't want to say
gumption.
Audacity because the gumption. I respect the gumption for going in for that dragon fight. Unfortunately, execution just fell a little flat. And for Weibo Gaming, they were able to reposition and corral them so beautifully. And once Weibo Gaming got their reins on control of the game, it was night and day difference, you know? Weibo Gaming were actually able to snowball the lead that they were given.
Yeah, it felt like once Weibo Gaming had it, they weren't letting go, whereas when EDG had that lead, there was always this element of, what are they going to do? Do we trust that they'll be able to do it yet? And unfortunately for EDG, we didn't have that trust, and it was proven here quite why, and you know, that's something that they can look at in the drawing room, right? Maybe try to figure out some changes that they can make. Obviously, they've got a pretty important game as their next one up against WE in a couple of hours' time, or maybe one in a little bit. But for EDG, a little bit of time to go back to the drawing board, figure out what they can change, what can work a little bit better, and see then if that can improve them for their next game.
And, you know, for any EDG fans, you know, don't lament. I think there's still, as we said before, there's some pretty awesome things to look forward to that they are showing in their very first match against one of the favorites in Weibo, who should be walking away alongside BLG as the top two seeds of this group. And because third seed actually matters in this group stage, that is somewhere that EDG can actually look forward to. But, of course, they'll be getting another chance against WE, at least in our casting rotation. I think they also play against BLG later today at some point. Don't hedge your bets on that one. I'm just going to put that one out there. But for Weibo Gaming, obviously the early game, not the early game you want to see from Weibo Gaming, especially if you want to make a return with vengeance in the second split after, as you called out, Rude, a little bit of a disappointment from their first split, ending in the 7th, 8th spot. Granted, they did match up against BLG, but they have a chance to get revenge later today.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And BLG weren't even top 3, right? So it speaks to the caliber of the LPL that we had in split number 1, and it speaks to what Weibo Gaming needs to improve upon. And there were blunders in this early game. There were little bits of questionable decision making, right? For example, we saw a Leona engage that cost first blood. We've seen dives in top lane that cost them 3 or 4 kills. Weibo, they are struggling, or they struggled a little bit in that early game, and maybe it was we can give up this much to see how well we can come back, but it's not something that you love to see when you're looking at this from the Weibo fan side.
Yeah, well, I will say one thing that you can still be excited about is when Weibo are in control of the game, man, oh man, do they put a death grip on the enemy squad. And the way that Tian was able to just eclipse Xiaohao in level leads, He had a 4-level lead on this guy by the end of the game. That's disgusting.
And he was capped as well. So at some point, Xiaohao might have like closed that. It could have been 5, honestly. I wasn't keeping too close a track, but Tian, you know, quite rightly, was an absolute beast in this game, and you can see the damage dealt to champions there. Surprisingly enough, it's the Ambessa, the melee bruiser, that's just diving in on everybody that finds the most insane amount of damage. And this is up against a poke Varus as well, whose sole job is just to whittle away at health bars and find damage in that sense.
Yeah, and as you can see, for anyone who missed the game and might have been wondering, oh yeah, Weibo beating EDG, that's expected, right? Well, you at least see for the early parts of the game where it wasn't going as expected, where EDG were actually playing really well into Weibo and getting strong opportunistic picks and, you know, kind of punking Weibo Gaming for the first 15, 18 minutes of the game.
Yeah, they were, and this is, again, some of those things that you're looking at as a Weibo fan, and you're thinking, well, against better teams, are they going to punish us that little bit more? And they, you know, and that then becomes a bit of a problem if that answer becomes yes. But this is the third Drake fight where EDG go a little bit too far. They extend their reach, maybe one play too many, and it ends up costing them quite dearly.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, this is the play where EDG are probably just going to go in the back room with their coaching staff and be like, okay, guys, first, we're going to talk about should have we taken this fight, you know, and if the answer is no, then, you know, cool, they can talk about what they could have done. But if the answer is yes, we should have, and it's good we took the fight, then they get to talk about, you know, the minutia, the execution, who should have led first, you know, what was the focus? Are you just trying to play for Dragonsteel and then get out, or are you actually trying to play for, you know, after the fight and try to force something out of it? But, you know, because after that, it was Weibo Gaming all day.
Yeah, I just want to take a look at this fight because Breathe is in there for a long period of time. He's like 1v3ing, 1v4ing in the face of everybody else. He's just absolutely fine.
Sheesh.
Yeah. I didn't get to capsulate Breathe in that final fight. I didn't get to see what he'd done, but yeah, getting another glimpse of that is an incredible performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, he got a major shield because he cast it in the midst of that clump, and then on top of it, Light is actually just pumping arrows through unaffected at all because everyone is trying to deal with the Ambessa, and you know, called out the Death Stance was such a pivotal purchase at that point because you're mitigating all this burst damage that would normally just completely 100-0 the Ambessa there, but between the shields and the Death Stance mitigation, and because she's picking up kills here one after the other, then the Death Stance heals come through and just give her so much sustain. It's just absolutely crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised off of that fight alone that gives Breathe player of the game. But if it wasn't for that fight, I would still put Tian in. I would put Tian as my player of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really tricky, right? If you're 4 levels up over the jungler, like, you probably deserve it. Yeah.
Boom!
Yeah. I'm happy with that. Well done, Tian. A very, very solid game from the Vi. And
jungle gap, jungle supremacy, vamos.
Vamos!
For the most part as well, Tian was 100% KP through the most part of that early game, so anything that good was happening was off the back of this Tian, and in fairness, Xiaohu as well.
Yeah, well, that's going to do it for the first match of the day. When we come back from break, y'all, it's going to be Team WE taking on the Titans BLG. Stay tuned.